Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Trade Communications webinar series. Today, we're presenting the Metal Roofing Cost of Doing Business webinar, and we're delighted you've joined us. I'm Paul Deffenbaugh. I'm the editorial director at Modern Trade. We're the publishers of Metal Architecture and Metal Construction News, as well as the Metal Directory. Today, we've got three brilliant panelists and some great information about the metal roofing market on how contractors can improve their businesses and a look at the supply chain. Before we begin, let's take care of a few housekeeping duties if I can. We've got a lot of material here. We've set it up so you can download the presentation in the handouts window, and we're also recording the webinar, and we'll post it on our website in the video section so you can share it or review it if you want. And you'll get an email tomorrow with links to the videos and other links to the slides. We're also producing a white paper on the cost of doing business survey, and I'll email everybody with that information on how they can get a hold of that in another week or so. Today, we're going to hold questions till the end, but I encourage you to submit them in the window there throughout the webinar when they occur to you. Let me start. Today's webinar is sponsored by MBCI, who also sponsored the cost of doing business survey. We want to thank them for their support of the industry and their devotion to improving the knowledge and education of all of our industry's participants. And today, our panelists are quite a who's who in the metal construction industry. They have decades of experience in metal roofing market, and they're going to address the context of the cost of doing business survey and throw light on specific areas. Chuck Howard is of Metal Roof Consultants. He will speak to the commercial market issues. Frank Farmer from American Metal Roof is going to talk about the residential market, and Bruce Green of MBCI is going to close up with a look at the supply chain. I'm going to begin us by a little recap of the cost of doing business survey, which I hope some of you participated in. Here are the basics. Last spring, we reached out to members of the Metal Roofing Alliance, the Metal Building Contractors and Erectors Association, the National Roofing Contractors Association, as well as our subscribers, and we're looking for contractors who indicated they install metal roofs. One of the big questions we wanted to ask was, what is a metal roofing contractor? What are the characteristics of a metal roofing contractor? We're going to dig into that a bit more later and we did go into considerable depth on that in the article, which was published in the June issue. It'll also be in the white paper that's coming out. Our survey was done by Redex Research. We had about a 5% response rate, and we ended up with about 266 qualified respondents. The breakdown of participants went like this. About 40% of the respondents who said they'd installed a metal roof in 2016 were general contractors. Nearly 20% were metal roofing contractors, and another 16% were roofing contractors. So that means about 35% of our respondents who say they installed a metal roof in 2016 were roofing contractors. You can begin to see why figuring out what a metal roofing contractor is can be a difficult proposition. The industry is wildly diverse, and we're struggling to just kind of figure out what it means to be a metal roofing contractor. We also compared metal roofing projects to non-metal roofing projects among these respondents, and we looked at them by project type, which you can see here. This is one of those charts that if you look, the more you look at it, it kind of begins to unravel in your head, and the more you think about it. So let me simplify things a little bit here. Of our respondents, 85% did at least one metal roof in the commercial construction market. You can see that over to the left. And only 50% did a roof other than metal, 51.5%. In the residential market, which is in the middle there, the total residential market, about 63% did at least one metal roof. I'm sorry, 58% did at least one metal roof, and just over 40% did another type. You can see that on the residential side of this chart, the three off to the right, the two bars for each project type are kind of close together. So metal roof and another type of roof, not a lot of difference between the two of them. So we can attribute that to residential roofers are more likely to offer a wider variety of services than commercial contractors. They'll install the roof the homeowner wants to some extent. I think Frank Farmer is going to talk a little bit about that some later and address that in in his part of the thing. On the commercial side, you see a greater diversity here and more specialization for metal roofing contractors. I was surprised, though, by how close the numbers were between new and retrofit. When you start comparing those residential retrofit versus residential new, commercial new versus commercial retrofit, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between those numbers, especially on the residential side, and I had expected greater specialization in that arena as well. We wanted to look at how much revenue individual contractors got from roofing. Part of the reason for that is if you're going to define a contractor, it has to be based on their roofing. If a contractor is doing $10 million a year in total installation services and $1 million of that comes from roofing, are they a roofing contractor? And that's where you start to kind of get into these weird little definition issues. Nationally, contractors derived from our respondents in the mean about $2.9 million from all roofing, which that also includes metal. But for metal only, the mean revenue was $832,000, so slightly less than a third of the total. When you take the same information by contractor type, a couple of major points pop out. Roofing contractors in our survey derive far more revenue from all roofing than metal roofing, even if they did a metal roofing project. That number over there on the right is huge. But self-described metal roofers, the two bars to the second from the right, are far more niche-oriented than other contractors. And that's not really a surprise. If they're self-describing as a metal roofer, they're less likely to offer more services. If they're self-describing as a roofing contractor, they're likely to offer a wider variety of services. What's interesting to me is if we're interested in growing the metal roofing market, there are opportunities across the board here to make headway. Perhaps it's converting a roofing contractor to a metal roofing contractor or helping him add more specialty skills in-house and improve sales support. I look at this chart and I see opportunity for significant growth in our market. I often say that metal roofs get bought by people, but just as often they get sold by somebody. And if you can convert the contractors to selling the product, will increase the number of products because of the sales support that comes along with it. The panelists will address some of that, but they're going to dig down into the details of individual companies as well, because how companies operate is an essential driver of market force. I'm going to turn it over now to Chuck Howard. And Chuck's the president of Metal Roof Consultants of Cary, North Carolina. He's been in the metal roofing business since 1973, both as a contractor and as an engineer. And he's designed, installed over 35 million square feet of commercial, industrial, and institutional metal roofs during that time. And in 2014, he was inducted into the Metal Construction Hall of Fame. He's been a presenter at MetalCon, and again, he's presenting this year in Las Vegas since its inception 27 years ago. Chuck's a hands-on engineer, presenter. His presentations offer practical information that are designed to make an immediate impact on your business. So let me, Chuck, you should have control of the mouse, and why don't you take it away?
Okay, I'll try. Thanks, Paul. Let me see if I click on this. There we go. Okay, thanks very much, Paul, for the introduction. I'll start off by, you've heard enough about me. All it really tells you is that I'm old and I'm still around in the industry, but I've been doing it for a long time and I'm very passionate about it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the survey, and then we're going to get into some of the details of what it takes to be a commercial metal roofing contractor. I was one for 30 years, and now I've been a consultant for the last 10 or 15 years in that industry. So I bring a little bit of everything to the market, whether you like it or not. First of all, in the metal roofing contractors, as Paul said, it's very hard to define. I found out I was a general contractor and a metal building contractor, and I drifted into the metal roofing in the 80s and got specializing into retrofit roofing and found out that there was much more profit in that than there was in the general contracting or the metal building erection business. So it was very easy for me to make the choice to go and specialize in this. The other contractors are the flat roof contractors, and I talk to those people a lot at different seminars and things, and they have a different mindset. The metal building contractors we talked about, they know that there's a metal roof with every building, so they have some knowledge about that, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit also. And then the contractor that only does metal, and they're a very special breed. We have a few of them around, but there's not a lot of them that just do metal. A lot of them, as Paul said, do work in different fields and have different lines. Here's some 3 steps I think you need to do to do more metal. First thing, and again, I'll talk about this a fair amount here, is the design assistance. You get a lot of people get confused, and they need design assistance. They have trouble finding it. A lot of people know a little bit about metal, but they don't know enough about it to help you. The assistance, the same thing. You know, how do we do these kind of details, especially if you get into retrofit, but even in the new construction, you know, where do we put the clips and how do we attach to the deck or do we attach to the steel? There's a lot of questions that need to be asked. And having been a contractor, I asked a lot of those questions and didn't find the answers, and so had to come up with them myself. So there's a lot of questions out there with that's not there with a flat roof, with a shingle roof, with some of the other competitive materials. But this is 2 things that you need to have. And of course, the last thing that gets overlooked a lot, there has to be jobs to bid. So there has to be a certain amount of base marketing to do to let people even know that a metal roof exists for application in a commercial market. So that's where we'll start. Now, the first thing, if I can, well, let me see if this will work. Paul, I'm not being able to advance the slide. I'm sorry. There. Did you advance it for me, or is it just working slow?
I think I might
Whatever.
have advanced it.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got the commercial metal roofing market. I've got it broken up into 2 different markets. One's a new metal roofing. You see on the left side. It's a typical school roof, which we've done a lot of in the past. And that's basically bar joist metal deck, rigid insulation, and a metal panel on top of it. Not a lot of design associated with that. There is some, but there's not a lot of intricate design on that. And there's a lot of that goes on, especially in the school market. The right side is an application, the blue roof, and it's a site for a high school, and the blue roof in kind of the middle of the page is one that was done in 1994 for a school district in North Carolina, and the lighter, the gray one in the bottom is a gym. One of them that's metal over shingles, and the one in the middle of the page was adding pitch to flat roof. So both of those, we had to market that. We had to let people know that it was available, go to school shows, send literature, different things like this. They had to know that we're around. And then we had to have the capacity to bring the design, the installation, and the materials together to be able to do those projects. And again, for some reason there, whoops, I went too far. Maybe it's just working slow. Yeah. Okay. All right. I've got it now. Now, the introduction to the metal roofing, the first things show on the left there is an actual standing seam metal roof. And I just need to talk a minute about the materials. We use 24 gauge in commercial work, almost all 24 gauge. There's some 26 gauge in industrial, but in most of the commercial, the institutional work is 24 gauge, and it has a galvalume substrate. And I won't go into the details on this; it'd take forever. But there was a study done. MBCI was Metal Construction Association sponsored a survey along with the Galvalume Association 3 or 4 years ago, and I was involved in that. And we've proven beyond a shadow of doubt that 60 years is the low threshold of how long a metal roof will last before it starts to get into the steel and starts rusting, actually. And the high end of it's over 200 years. So it's going to last as long as the building. And that's not a Chuck Howard guess. That's an actual standard ASTM report was filled out on that. It was vetted, and so that's an actual fact. So we know that material is going to last. So the only thing that we have, as I keep harping on, is the design and the installation. That's the only variable that we have in this. We know the material, and Bruce will explain that, but the material has been around for a long time, and they're very good. Manufacturers are very good at making that material and getting it to us. We have to just be able to design it and get it installed properly. you only have to have a 1/2 and 12 pitch. I'm not going to tell you you really can go a little lower than that, but we try to do everything at least a 1/2 and 12 pitch. So it doesn't have to look like Granddad's barn. Okay, you can do them at very low, I call those functional roofs. Anything up to 2 and 12, I call a functional roof. You're not necessarily going to see it, but you get all the benefits of it. It's got a reflective surface, so it's very, very green, if you will. It's made from recycled materials. Almost all of it's recyclable. If you ever had to recycle one, I've never had to take one off and recycle it before, but if you did, it's 100%. And it's made of, in the neighborhood of, you see all kinds of figures, but neighborhood of 80% of the steel is made from recycled materials. So all that reflective surface and being recycled is all very, very green, which is very, very important in today's market. And then the other thing is the structural system. It's designed. It's an actual system that can be designed as opposed to a shingle or a flat roof, a single ply build up mod bit, whatever it happens to be. This is a system that's designed specifically for that application. We have the edge loads, edge zones with loads. We know exactly what the manufacturers test them. We do testing on it to find out what kind of loads, when they're going to fail, when they're not going to fail, how close the clips need to be. All that can be designed in a metal roof that can't be designed in some of the other components. All right, now the requirements for a commercial roof, as I just said, it's a standing seam roof. It's got concealed fasteners. It's usually on a larger surface. It has to expand and contract, so you can't pin it down. You have to pin it one place and let it float someplace else. Hydrostatic connections everywhere. I'm doing the webinar, so that's what I can say. There's people that may disagree with that, but if you have a hydrostatic connections everywhere where you're going to keep the water on the outside of envelope and not let it get in and work on underlayments. In my opinion, that's by far the easiest way to do it, and it's no more expensive than it is to do a hydrokinetic roof. So I would strongly suggest that. Structural analysis and direction for proper erection based on that structural analysis is very important. And again, it's kind of scary to people getting in the market that, well, I'm not an engineer, they'll say, or I don't know exactly how to do that. Go find the help for that. We can help you with that. Manufacturers can help you with that. Don't just stick your head in the sand and say, well, we put the clips at 4 foot on center on the last job. I'm sure it's going to be okay on this job. That's where, when I do expert analysis on things and witnessing in different lawsuits and stuff, and that's where I always find the biggest problem is somebody didn't do the structural analysis. So don't get yourself, and when you do that, then you know exactly how to put it up, and you can be very comfortable with your bid that way. And use the proper materials according, and of course, including all the accessories. The installation, you got to have a trained workforce. Manufacturers have a good training. You can train them yourself, but you've got to have a trained workforce. You can't bring in a shingle contractor and have them put a standing seam roof up for the first time without a lot of training that they're going to need. But the MBCI, the manufacturers, different places like that, you can find people that are trained to do that. So that's very important. Detailed shop drawings for the site conditions on a commercial roof. It's very big. It usually has a lot of units. It'll have penthouses. It'll have maybe it's a curved roof, radius roof, whatever. You have to have good installations and not let the guys in the field be the engineers. They're very good erectors, but they need to be told exactly where to put this stuff. And then you have to be able to manage that field force. That can be very complicated, not complicated, but it's something that you have to pay attention to. It's something that's very, very important to make sure that you manage them and make sure that they follow the shop drawings. So anyway, those two things, design and installation, I say it all the time. It's in all my articles and everything. Those two things are extremely important if you're going to be a successful commercial roofing contractor. Now with retrofit, as I said, one of the things is add pitch to flat roof. I can't go through the whole thing right now, but you're going to have, there's a system to do that. We've been doing it since the late 70s. It's not new. It's everybody's got it. The manufacturers have products for it, but it can be very complicated sometimes if you don't understand the facts of it. You put a clip down on the roof. You have a variable height post. You use a purlin just like you would in a metal building. I always say it's like putting a small metal building on top of an existing roof. You have to brace it. Again, going into bracing can take a little while to do that, but it has to be braced. So it's just like a metal building where you put your cross bracing in it and use portal frames or whatever on the sides. You have to be able to brace it. And then you have a new platform to put a new metal roof on. That's so you now converted the flat roof that leaks into pitched roof that doesn't. Let's see. Too much. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. There you go. The metal over the metal. You can have a system where you can put another metal roof over top of an existing roof if it's leaking. A lot of times, if it's a bad installation, that's what we have to do. And there's a system to do that. And again, it's just you don't need your posts and clips like I just talked about. You can just put your purlins across the ribs, fasten them into the existing framing, and put the panel on that. The one on the right is over shingles, and you don't have to take the shingles off. Everybody wants to take the shingles off and open it up and all that. You don't have to. We've done millions of square feet of it where we just leave the shingles on, we put a 1-inch board down and put the roof panels down. You can see the clips on that, the picture on the right side, and the spacing of those clips are extremely important. That actually is the project that was the gray roof back 4 or 5 slides ago. That we covered over. Their gym's open, everything's open inside. You don't have to do the nasty tear off. I keep going the wrong way. I'm sorry. There we go. Then this is stuff I'm gonna be talking about at MetalCon, and I invite anybody that's online that would like to come to MetalCon. It's in Las Vegas. We've got 2 seminars. I'll show it at the end when they are. But it's going to be why metal roofing. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm trying to get away from all the details and stuff. And basically, I want to say, why does an owner, in this case, why does an owner want a metal roof? And mainly the number one reason is to keep the building dry. They don't care about all our ASTM tests and all the different things. They want to make sure they got the building dry. They want to make sure they're taking care of environments. Very, very popular right now. They want to make sure that they're using materials that are recyclable, and they got a reflective, and they're going to get better energy values for their buildings and stuff. And we do all those things. So I put a check next to that one. They want to make sure it's a long-term usage, that they're going to use them for 20, 30, 40 years, and it's going to be the best price for them to use a life cost analysis. And again, I'm going to show you a sheet on that just in a minute and summarize that. But it does. Metal roofing is the least expensive roof that you can use on a commercial building if you're going to keep the building more than 20 years. And that's no question about that. All the math works out that way. It's going to be the least expensive. So don't have anybody tell you that it's too expensive. So anyway, and the looks, definitely a check. Everybody wants a metal roof. Everybody wants that. So we can check that off. Those are the 4 main things that people want with buildings. They don't care about the design. They don't care about the loading, anything like this. They'll care about that eventually. But to start with, this is what they care about. This is what we should be marketing. Then we have the contractor comfort. Are you comfortable, or are you discomfortable? Are you not comfortable with it? And we're going to talk about that in the MetalCon seminar also. And you have the fear of the unknown. And that's why the main reason contractors tell me that they don't get into it. We don't know how to design it. We don't have the labor to do it. We don't know what materials to buy for it. We don't even know how to schedule it. Well, that's a fearful thing. But if I go to the Theodore Roosevelt's quote, I ran across that the other day, and it's like, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing to do is the wrong thing. But the worst thing to do is nothing. So I'm trying to give you enough information or get you enticed enough to say, and I'm saying to you, don't let fear cause you to do nothing. Doing nothing is not letting you grow, and you can do something and just make this thing work. It's very doable. I've been doing it a long time, and it's very doable. I'm sorry I keep going the wrong way. The sustainability portion of it that I was talking about with metal infrastructure for metal roofs, that's extremely important. It's what we hear in the public market now with our roads and everything. The buildings themselves are one large factor of that doesn't get the press, but it doesn't get overlooked either. So we did a survey on a project that we put a metal roof on in 1989. They'd had 3 shingles roofs on it since 1988. We evaluated, they paid us to evaluate it in 2016. There's less than $15,000 worth of cost that we had to spend on these 3 high schools. And that was we found some fasteners that used the wrong fasteners and some deck flashings that had rotted away and some things like this. Very, very minimal. A couple of days worth of work, maybe 4 days, and they had it up to speed again. All the panels that you see here are just in as great a shape. It's about 1.5 miles from the coast in North Carolina. So it gets all the wind loads and everything, but they've done fine with that. They've come to us. We've also now done 3 that are middle schools, which are about the same size, and all their new schools, they put metal roofs on in this county. So this is a customer that understands metal roofing, and we've got the numbers here that show this is much cheaper. They spent more on shingle roofs in the first 15 years than they have in the last 27 years when they put the metal roof on it. So anyway, the life cost analysis I want to talk about, and I'm just going to give you the numbers. If you look in the far right-hand column, and anybody wants to, you have my access. I'll be glad to send this to you. This is a sheet that we do, and what it does is it compares on 60,000 square foot of roof we do a comparison. If you're going to keep a flat membrane roof, you're going to put another shingled roof on, or you're going to put a metal over either one of them. You can add pitch to the flat roof or put metal over the shingles. And it's all, it goes for 60 years, and it's the maintenance associated with it. I'm using NRCA figures for the maintenance and things like this, and the replacement values are the current values on that. And it ends up, they all come out interestingly the same, is a metal roof's about a third the cost. Over 60 years, about a third the cost of what it takes to keep a flat roof or maintain and replace as needed a shingled roof. So, and we're very conservative with these figures. So I can send you this, and I'll be glad to. The interesting part is even after 20 years, the metal roof is less expensive than what the other ones are. So if you're looking for long-term, which most commercials work is, if you're looking for long-term, why those are the numbers. And so again, we're not more expensive. Okay, simple message on metal roofs, and I'm about out of time now. The simple message I've got for metal roofs is for the owners, they look great, and they're the lowest cost. You see the roof in the bottom, that's a big elementary school, and they had shingles on it, and we covered it over, and they look great. They look better than they did before, and they've got the lowest cost. And owners understand those two things very much. They'll understand that very much. For the contractors that are on the webinar right now, there's very few callbacks if you do it right. If you get it designed, and how many times have you heard me say this, get it designed and make sure it gets installed properly the first time, you won't have any callbacks. You'll get calls from the customer to do more. Once you do one for a school district, you end up doing all of them eventually. And for the manufacturers, if they'll market to the owners and support the contractors, it's a win for them also. But I think the supporting the contractors and marketing the owners is very important. It's done as a team effort, not the contractors at one side and the manufacturers on another. They need to get together and make sure that they market them together. There's the MetalCon seminars that we're doing. It's Wednesday and Thursday, and we'd be glad to have anybody come to you. Come up and introduce yourself to me. I'll be there the whole time for MetalCon, and I love doing that. I love to do things like this. Any way that we can spread the message that the benefits of metal roofing, why we certainly want to do that. So, Paul, I'm pretty much out. I appreciate it very much. Thanks everybody for attending.
Thank you, Chuck, very much. I think we have Chuck's contact information, but if you want it, we'll be certain to get it to you, and you can contact him. I know a lot of people are interested in seeing more of that LCA spreadsheet that you have put together there, Chuck. Our next presenter is Frank Farmer. Frank's the founder and president of American Metal Roofs and Metal Roofing Consultants in Flint, Michigan. After establishing American Metal Roofs as a premium brand across several states, his company was recognized by Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. Frank attended Michigan State University, go Spartans. He was in the College of Osteopathic Medicine, planning to be a doctor, if I remember correctly, Frank. But prior to entering the metal roofing business, you were a salesperson and then a sales manager for a very high profile $20 million a year window replacement retailer. Because of Frank's reputation as a sales trainer and his ability to train first-year people to sell as much as $1.5 million, his boot camps are in high demand, as you can imagine. Frank's a visionary. He's a problem solver. He's an innovator. He's sought after by metal roof manufacturers as a business coach to help them attract home improvement companies into the metal roofing business. So, Frank, take it away, and thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Chuck, that was some great information, and I really like what you ended with when you started talking about how really contractors and manufacturers really need to work together. That is one great divide that needs to be fixed and working together, and it'll move this metal roofing industry forward. My background is medicine, and I did go to school to be a doctor. But I grew up in the home improvement business after that, decided did not want to practice. And really, the best way we can describe our business here is that we're a marketing company that sells roofs. And we're going to talk about the differences between the different type of contractors. But I'm going to try to unravel a little bit of the survey today. And then I'm going to end with really some pricing models or pricing guidelines for residential people to help them understand what they're going to need to do to really make a great living at metal roofing, and it can be a great living. First thing, well, this thing a little touchy here. Okay. Wow.
Sorry, Frank. That's me messing things up.
Okay.
You take control now.
I'm in control. Let's see. Let's go back. There we go. Start at the beginning. I want to drive home a point. There is a new Dodge study out there that really talks about that the residential metal roofing business is exploding. And you see some great growth where you go back to 2002 through 2014, where it was 8% of the retrofit market, jumped at 11% in 2015, 2016 at 14%, and we're going to see another big jump this year. We are seeing it consistently. So there's two types of residential metal roofers that we see and that I talk to, and those two types are the take and the makes. And I want to draw a distinction between the two. A take person is a guy who's running a business and he waits for business to come to them. They consider themselves metal roofers. They wait for somebody that's looking for a metal roof. They may find out through an organization that somebody wants a metal roof, and then what they do is they look for that low-hanging fruit. They are involved in a bid system with other companies. They handle very similar types of product, and their volume is truly dictated by the economy. With everybody competing for that same work, they're trying to be just like the other guy, except for they're trying to be cheaper, and that drives down their profitability. The road that we have taken and we teach people to take is really how to be a maker in the business, how to drive business through lead generation. You don't need to wait for the business to come to you. Sales volume is definitely dictated by the number of leads that you can generate through marketing and training of a sales staff. Not competing against everyone else. In other words, when I'm running marketing, we will get people that will respond to us, and we're going to many times be the only people that they're talking to, or the only serious people that they're entertaining. We create a uniqueness within our company and product, and we do nothing but try to build value. Through that, not competing and building uniqueness and building value, that is what drives profit here, and we're able to do a much better product and deliver a much better product to a consumer than somebody who's only faced with trying to get the job based on a low price. At our company, we will generate this year approximately 7,000 inquiries into our product. We don't do any telemarketing, of which about 3,000 inquiries will come through our website and through web marketing. American Metal Roofs is definitely a make type of organization. The demand is out there for us that we started a separate entity in our company called Metal Roofing Consultants 3.5 years ago, and that is where we're working with individual companies and working with manufacturers, helping them understand each other and understanding what each one needs and wants to become profitable, so that there's more money that is spent marketing metal roofs that drives the whole industry. When you think about our company alone spending $1 million in marketing and driving leads this year, imagine having 50 companies that are doing that, 100 companies that are doing that. It will really accelerate the metal roofing market. I want to cover now some of the points inside of the survey and draw out a few things. Survey says that companies that grew showed less profit than those that were flat or decreasing in revenue. That's kind of disturbing when you think about, okay, we grew, but our revenues, and profits didn't grow. This is the result of not understanding the additional associated costs that are involved in growth. When I sit down and start working with companies, I find out that many of them believe that to grow, what they need to do is get more cost competitive, and they keep cutting their prices and thinking they're going to be making it up with volume. And it really leads to a very nasty situation where they're operating on slim profits and not enough to go back into the company to grow the entity. Survey also says the more detailed information that was asked for, the sketchier the response was. That is also disturbing when you look at it. And it's caused by people doing more than just metal and not used to breaking out in their P&L and keeping their material and labor costs all separated for the different type of products. So what ends up happening is when they go back and try to extract that data, they're not able to, and they deal from gut, and they're not dealing from facts, and the whole thing really starts to get fuzzy. The second thing I find when I start working with people is that from company to company, the expenses were not categorized consistently. For instance, some people will have inside of their labor costs in a P&L, they'll have many indirect costs. So they really, when you're comparing one company to another, they might be say, I have a 10% labor cost. Another guy says, well, I got a 23% labor cost. The thing is they're not comparing apples with apples, and that leads to a lot of confusion, and therefore we say the information is sketchy, and it is truly unreliable data that they're operating with, and hurts them when they try to grow that business. Setting price. Survey says most residential metal roofing is retrofit, and residential retrofit metal has the greatest opportunities for profit. Very true statement. That is because it's not based on a bid. When we're selling residential metal roofing, we're not walking into a house and a customer says, I want a 24 gauge steel galvalume, I want it on this underlayment, I want it done to these specs. When we're going into a home, every home is unique with an opportunity for us to be an expert. We generally will start with a survey, and we'll do an attic inspection. We're going to use a lot of equipment that the customer easily sees that we're professionals, and we gain credibility almost instantly. When we go into a home to sell residential metal roofing, the customer that is buying this is generally 50 years or older. They really feel they're ahead of the game, that they are looking for something to be done 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years away. Rarely do we go into a house that is leaking. That's not who this customer is. And so we're able to go in, and by doing an inspection, we almost always find that the person is further along than what they thought they were. In other words, this is a customer who thinks that they are going to do something 2 years from now. We do an inspection, we go into an attic, we do a close-up examination of the roof, and find out they already have problems and maybe should have done something a year or two ago. To them, they got used to the problem, so the problem came on them so gradually, they didn't see it. So when they see the results of the examination and testing that we do, that customer starts to get emotional because they thought they were ahead of the curve and they're really not. And when people get emotional, they'll pull the trigger to do it now. This notion, I'm going to wait 6 months, a year and a half, goes right out the window, and it leads to an easier one-day sale. When we're selling, we're going into a house, our average sales $37,500. That's on a 23 to 25 square house. When we go into that house, that customer is fully expecting that they're not going to do anything. All of their information is, everything that they're saying to us up front is based on information that they believe to be true. And when they find out it's not true, it gives us great advantage. Survey says contractors doing half metal roofing and half something else. When I read that, it really brought out a challenge, and this presents a unique problem in understanding that the benchmarks for metal are significantly different than the benchmarks for other types of products. And if not understood, metal will zap the profit from a company. If they track them separate and really understand their costs, it's very simple to do, you need to be conscious of it, then they're going to benefit greatly from the growth of the metal side of their business. An example, if we took a company that was doing $1 million, use some easy numbers here, and we did a 50-50 split between metal and asphalt, and the direct cost, material and labor, were 50%. or 500,000 is here. So if we had $500,000 of it in asphalt of their business, and direct costs were 40% or 200,000, all other costs at 400,000, their profit would be $100,000. Metal at $500,000, if they had direct costs of 60%, that would be $300,000. So let's take a look at this. If they wanted to double the business and double the profits by expanding their metal roofing part of their business by $1 million, say to $1.5 million, and asphalt was 500,000, and direct costs for 40%, which would be 200,000. On the metal side, at $1.5 million, their direct costs would be 900,000 at 60%. All other costs doubled from 400,000 to 800,000, and management expenses, throw it in for another 50,000. What you can find out is that person could double the size of their business, yet their profit would end up being a lot less. So it's very important for them to understand the benchmarks of a business. What we see is when people mix products and they have a higher material costs with one product than the other, and they're averaging together, they're not understanding truly where they need to move their numbers to stay profitable. And we work with them to help them to understand that. Survey says of all contractors selling metal roofing contractors have the lowest cost of material and labor. And that is true. Reasons: the jobs are sold by commissioned salespeople. Highly trained salespeople in methodology to create need and to create the urgency with that customer to do it now. Again, we're going to get emotion involved. We create greater value to sell the jobs, so we get more money. We constantly will talk with companies that are having great difficulty in getting $700–800 a square, and yet other people that we're working with will be getting for the same product and teach them how to sell $1,500 per square. One company is going to be profitable and have the money to employ great salespeople, have great backup, great help, and put out a great quality product, and then have 15% left over for marketing, while the other guy is going to struggle and think he has to lower his price. A make company such as ours also makes it very easy for customers to buy by making sure that we have financing that is set up. So when we get more money for the job, that's what lowers the material and labor percentage. Not that it costs less to install, or not less that the materials cost less, it's that it's a lower percentage. We need to get more money for the job to run the model that we run, because we do pay commissions, and we will allow a significant amount of money, 15%, for customer acquisition costs and to run a call center. Survey also says the majority of roofing contractors are solely commissioned. The more a company is geared for a bid, which is a logical sale, the less sales skills that person needs to have. Lower sales compensation, and thus a base salary, possibly a small bonus program. Organizations with commissioned salespeople tend to generate greater profits with highly trained salespeople. Highly trained salespeople are more coveted for what they bring to the table because they can create business. Therefore, they make a lot more money than a person who can just go in and present information, doesn't understand sales methodology, and is operating from a bid system. Survey also says metal building contractors are least likely to have commissioned salespeople, and not surprisingly have the lowest profits. That is true. When they're going to utilize that bid system, they don't have somebody on the front line who's able to build value and grab a higher dollar for that product. Survey also says there are more residential commissioned salespeople than commercial commissioned salespeople. Follows the same thing we've been talking about. The residential areas where the marketing dealers operate. They understand there are marketing companies that sell metal roofs, and they are an emotional sale, and it gets more money for that job. Example of a pricing model of a marketing metal roof contractor. Many of them that we work with, we start with a very similar type of model here where material and labor is going to come in at 45%. We teach them to sell, and they will drive that material and labor cost even down below 40%. Sales and marketing, between commissions and what it takes to market and what it takes to run that call center to generate that lead, will come in around 25%. Admin will make up around 20%, leaving a profit of 10%. If you're understanding you want a material and labor cost at 45%, we need to take that cost and divide by 0.45. So if we have a material and labor cost, let's say of $650, and I'm just picking some numbers here, and we were to divide it by 0.45, that tells me we need to get a net selling price per square of $1,400.44. If you're running a promotion, say that there's you're set up so that there's an incentive to do business today, a promotion that you run that's say you average a 10% off on a price, or that is the goal, then that 1,444 needs to be divided by 0.9 and will give us a selling price of $1,605 as a list price. Hopefully that information that I've given you will help you. If you have questions, I would be glad to stay on and answer them at the end, Paul. Paul?
My mute button stopped working. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Frank. It took me a while to get back on board here. Great information, and it's interesting to hear this idea of selling a project running as a central theme through both Chuck's and yours, and your presentation, the necessity of selling that project, whether it's to a homeowner or to a school board. Is a major part of the opportunity that I see in metal roofing industry. So I'm going to turn this last part of the presentation over to Bruce Green. Bruce been in the metal construction industry since 1975, coming in just a couple of years behind Chuck, and he's currently the vice president of MBCI. Bruce began his sales career with MBCI in 1989, and he's worked with the construction and metal building contractors nationally to supply metal building components for hundreds of architectural, commercial, industrial, and residential projects. Today, Bruce leads the organization with a focus on providing the industry's highest quality metal roof and wall systems and exceptional customer experiences. So let me give the control of the mouse over to you, Bruce, and take us away.
Very good. Thank you, Paul, for inviting me to be on this panel. It's really hard to follow up. Chuck and Frank, who are both so knowledgeable about the industry and the product, but I'm going to do my best to talk about today the connection between the supplier and the roofing contractor. As Chuck talked about the design assistance and the installation assistance, one of the things that the roofing contractor can benefit from by having a relationship with his supplier, whoever that is help with both of those things. When the design professional is considering the roof for his project and thinking about what it's going to look like and how he wants it to be, he needs some help with the design and the detail that the manufacturer can provide. We see roofs sometimes, Chuck talked earlier about a half-on-12 slope. And we see roofs sometimes designed with a half-on-12 or 1-on-12 slope, but the roof system perhaps is designed to be used on a 3-on-12 slope. And if the architect sends that out for bid, somebody's going to bid that project and someone's going to build it, and there are going to be problems with that later. So if the roofing contractor has a relationship with the supplier, whoever that is, they can catch these things early in the process and make sure that the design of the roof system aligns itself with the geometry of the roof. Also with the details, if you can consider MBCI or Chuck or any of the other suppliers, when you think about roofing details, MBCI has a huge library of roof details that people have designed over the years. One of the things we find that causes problems with the metal roof system is if there are designed in flaws, if there's a closed valley, if there's no place for the water to go. So whenever your roofing contractor is looking at the design with the design professional, we can work through some of these earlier. And we probably have in our library the detail already done for anything they can come up with. Now that's not a challenge for you guys to come up with new detail issues, but if you do, we will certainly work with the roofing contractor and the design professional to make sure that we have the best roof system to fit what the owner and the design professional are working on. We also have design assistance with our project service department to help answer those questions and get the right details to the right folks. We also have installation assistance with a training program for the roofing contractors to make sure that they don't only just go through the lab and listen to someone talk, but they're actually putting these roofs on to go through some of these details, to run a screw gun, and to help train the crews to make sure that they're installing the roofs as they're designed to be installed. So from inception through completion, the roofing contractor and supplier should work together. There was a lag. The roofing contractor needs help understanding the substrates and the paint systems. So the substrates, whether it's galvalume or galvanized, and the paint systems, siliconized polyester, and when to use Kynar. Obviously, the sun is the great problem with the paint systems. If you're going to have an earth tone or a deep colored roof, and it's going to be exposed to the sun, you're going to want to look at the Kynars. If you've got a place that is not as exposed to the rays, or maybe is in a place where it's not as noticeable, you might want to go with the siliconized polyester. But you need to understand how the paint systems work and the chalk and fade systems work in order to make sure that you have the right paint system and the right application. Obviously, the quality and service before the sale, the relationship between the supplier and the roofing contractor to make sure that not only is it designed correctly, but they understand the ordering process, who's responsible for what. At MBCI, if you give us the architectural drawings, we can run it through our system and provide a turnkey materials list. Some people want to utilize that and let us do the shop drawings. Other contractors are more comfortable providing their own shop drawings and their own cut lists. We can certainly do it either way. But there needs to be conversation on the front end to make sure that all of those things are considered and that the order is placed correctly and that everybody understands when the truck is going to arrive and that everything's on the truck when it gets there. That's the most important thing to a roofing contractor. It's their business. They want to make sure that once that order is placed and booked with their supplier, that it's going to show up on time, the truck's going to be there to meet the crew to have it unloaded, that all of the material is going to be on the truck, that it's labeled correctly so that it can be placed around the job site correctly. And they don't have to worry about that. That's the thing that the roofing supplier, the material supplier needs to make sure they give to the roofing contractor. On the front end, when they're doing the quotations, to make sure that the quotations are accurate so that they can make sure that they build in their pricing correctly when they get it to the owner. And again, making sure that it's on time, accurate, and complete. There's a lag. There it is. We also want to make sure that we work with the design professional and the roofing contractor to understand the warranties, whether it's a weather tightness warranty or a finish warranty. What does that mean? There are many different types of weather tightness warranties. There are standard warranties. There are complete single source warranties. Some of the warranties require inspections. Some of them don't. Some of them require that the roofing contractor is also involved in the warranty. Some of them with the supplier is completely responsible for the weather tightness warranty. So there needs to be some conversation between the design professional and the roofing contractor to make sure everyone understands exactly what the warranty covers, to make sure that the submittal packages are complete and exactly what the architect or the design professional needs to get that roofing system supplied for the project. The certified installer training, again, that's when we will send the crews to our classes to make sure they understand exactly how these roofs go together And these are open for all of the roofing contractors if any of you guys want to talk about this. And we also have a new online ordering system I wanted to mention. I want to get that word out to everyone. All of the information that you might require when you're placing an order, try out this online ordering website. It's new to us. We're working through it. We're very, very proud of it. We're fortunate at MBCI to have some wonderful marketing people that have helped us put this together. We certainly appreciate them doing that. And with that, I would open the floor up to questions. I think that leaves us about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing Chuck in Las Vegas. I appreciate you guys being on the webinar, and I'll turn it back over to Paul now.
Great, Bruce, thank you very much. I'm going to bring all the panelists in here. We've got a couple of questions, but Chuck mentioned that he's going to be at MetalCon in Las Vegas. Frank, you are also going to be at MetalCon in Las Vegas, and what you're talking about?
Well, I'm gonna talk about the building an organization with millennials as installers and increasing profitability of metal roofing.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, that sounds going to be some challenging discussions involved in that. So the MetalCon is in Las Vegas. It's the week after next, the 17th, 18th, 19th, right about then. And encourage everybody to come there. Bruce, are you going to be there as well, or are you?
Yes, I will be at MetalCon. I was just looking at the dates for Chuck's presentation, and I intend to be in those.
Good. So we'll be able to, any of our attendees and other folks will be able to catch up with all the panelists and ask more specific questions here. One of the things, one of the questions here is about commission salespeople, and Frank, this is right up your alley. It's not something we, as you pointed out, it's not something we see on the commercial side very much, in part because commercial is so much heavily bid oriented, I think, than residential is. Do you think that a commission sales program similar to what you're describing could work on a commercial metal roofing contractor? Work for a commercial metal roofing contractor?
Not, yes, it can. Maybe not on the scale of what residential would be. It would be scaled down. But many times, even on when we get into get specs in on bids, we're able to change that. So we're able to be unique, and when you're able to be unique and bring a better product to the market. For instance, many times we're dealing with churches, and they will have got their specs, what they're going to put on, as very minimum. You know, many times not even putting a synthetic underlayment down, wanting to put it over felt. Where they get some of this stuff you don't know, and they put it out to everybody to bid. We bring it in, and we'll. Our salespeople are very well trained. They're going to go in there and explain to them why that's not the best, help them understand the fallacies of what they sent out. We become the authority and we get the job. But we do that through highly trained, skilled, commissioned salespeople.
But Chuck, that sounds a little bit similar to the same kind of thing that you experience when you go in front of, say, a school board, that the sales process is as much an educational process as anything.
It definitely is an educational process. I wrote an article about, one of my first articles I ever wrote was about education in the metal roofing business, and I believe that that's the thing that Frank and I and Bruce are even talking about, is we have to educate that customer. We run into exactly the same thing Frank just mentioned, where you get specs that have manufacturers that have been out of business 10 years. They've got details that are for hydrokinetic roofs and should be hydrostatic. I mean, it's crazy. Some of the stuff they come up with, and the person that goes in and can very professionally explain to them, here's a better way to do it. You're not spending any more money, but a better way to do it, and we're going to get you a better roof. You're all of a sudden at the top of the list, just like Frank said. And now I don't know. I've tried different things. I've had commission salespeople for commercial roofing, and it can work. It's not as, you don't make a sale every day. That's the problem with that. Is it has to be structured differently, because you may talk to somebody today and it's a year and a half before they get the budget, but they put $1 million roof on. So it's not the size roofs that they have in residential. It's a different market, but you definitely can do some sort of commissioning or bonusing is usually what I would do, because they are longer term sales in the commercial market.
Thanks, Chuck. We got time for one more quick question, if you don't mind, guys. Somebody's curious, and I think this is an important part about converting maybe roofing contractors or GCs into just metal roofing, pure metal roofing contractors, and it's this issue of learning how to install a metal roof and the technical aspects of that go along with it. Bruce, you even mentioned it as part of the support that you guys offer. I'll throw this out to you first, Frank. How long do you think, this person asked, how long does it take to have a metal roof installer prepared? And I think the person is asking, how long does it take to train somebody to install a metal roof?
How long do I think? We can have them installing a metal roof after a good week of training. They really need to work alongside somebody else, and that's one of the things that we help companies do, is get more training for their guys. But it's not as difficult as what people think if they'll follow a good program. If they take what the manufacturer has and truly try to understand it and not put their own thinking in it and try to take shortcuts and understand why they're asking them to do certain things, why they're speccing certain ways to do things, they'll stay out of trouble. It's not the nightmare that they think.
I think the warranty department at every manufacturer in the United States just stood up and applauded that because that's always the argument, isn't it? That the callbacks come from improper installation. Is a week a similar thing for you, Chuck, on the commercial side?
Yeah, it just depends. If you're getting into retrofit, you're getting into structural things, and they're a little more complicated because we've got an existing conditions and things like this. The comments that I'll make is that I coined this phrase with some of the infrastructure committees I'm on right now, and we always find the money to do it wrong, but we never find the money to do it right. And I'm as guilty as the next guy as a contractor. Always say we're going to train our people, but we got to get this job started and this job started, and we're behind on this job, or we got a cash flow problem, and we can't afford to have guys not being on productive jobs for a week. And we find all kinds of reasons to waste our money doing it wrong, but we just don't find money to do it right. People like Frank and myself are available to anybody to be able to help them do it right and spend the same amount of money and get much better. And I'm not selling for either one of us, but do it right, and don't just jump into it and try to do it quickly. If you do, you're going to run into problems, and you'll see me in court. I'll be on the other side of the table. I mean, you don't want to do that. Just don't do that. Don't waste your money.
Oh, let me inject one thing, okay? When I say we can take somebody and have them installing, they can install simple roofs. If we're going to take a crew and really teach them and give them a level of certification, they can plan on it being really 3 weeks that they could learn, and 1 week in the field, and they're going to come out and they're going to rock and roll. They will be very competent people. If they're going to work alongside somebody, they need at least a week of training. And I hear what everybody says. It's always a cash flow issue. It's always this. Just going to tell everybody, take the time and learn. It will make you money.
I once worked for a contracting company that was not a very good contracting company, and among the crew, it was said, "We do it right because we do it twice."
Oh no, that's good, Paul. Yeah.
So that's we'll leave it with that, if we will. And thanks to Chuck, to Frank, to Bruce for your expertise and your help for the industry. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks to our audience for staying with us here. And I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but we will post this, as I said before, on our website, and we'll send out an email letting you know when all of that happens. So thanks, everybody, very much, and have a great afternoon. Take care.